Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
An episode of Our Miss Brooks starring Eve Arden going back 71 years to April 22nd, 1951, as the school now has a television set. I know. What an amazing leap forward. Well, maybe. We thank you for joining us on this TGI Friday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. It is the 22nd day of April, 112th day of the year, 253 days remaining till we get to 2023. Congress passing the Coinage Act on this date in 1864, which mandates the inscription "In God We Trust" be placed on all coins minted as U.S. currency. Boston Red Stockings defeating the Philadelphia Athletics 6-5 on this date in 1876 in the very first National League baseball game. At high noon on this date in 1889, thousands rushed to claim land in the land run of 1889. Within hours, the cities of Oklahoma City and Guthrie, Oklahoma, formed with populations of at least 10,000. Pravda, the voice of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, began publications on this date in 1912. And in 1930, the UK, Japan, and the U.S. signed the London Naval Treaty, regulating submarine warfare and limiting shipbuilding. That was in 1930. In 1945, after learning that Soviet forces had taken Eberswald without a fight, Adolf Hitler admitted defeat in his underground bunker and stated suicide was his only recourse. It was on this date in 1952, the very first televised atomic bomb test took place at the Nevada test site near Las Vegas.
18, 19, 20. 21 and there it is, that brilliant flash, that white light that precedes the explosion of the atomic bomb number 17. 40 miles away, a brilliant white flash, almost blinding with those rocket trails coming out of it.
We had a report from the telephone company that fed the picture from Los Angeles to where we brought it, all the way across the country. That reception was perfect all the way through, and we're delighted about it, of course.
Now, we record Classic Radio Theater in Ely, Nevada, which is 164 miles northeast of the Nevada test site, and we have had a number of people here who lived here for years and years that were affected by the radiation from those tests, and it is sad that it still continues. The Army Mccarthy hearings began on this date in 1954.
The average American can do very little insofar as digging communist espionage agents out of our government is concerned. They must depend upon those of us whom they send down here to man the watchtowers of the nation.
The hearings would go on for the better of 3 months, and quite honestly, Mr. McCarthy had overstepped his bounds by this point in time. Were there communists in government? Most likely. Were there a number of innocent people? Okay. Were there a lot of innocent people affected by McCarthy's crusade? Yeah, there were. And that's sad. Okay, the 1964-65 New York World's Fair opened for its first season on this date in 1964. It would open for its second season yesterday, on this date yesterday's date in 1965. President Johnson spoke at the fair, speaking words of peace and unity.
I prophesy peace is not only possible in our generation. I predict that it is coming much earlier. And if I am right, then at the next World's Fair, people will see and America as different from today as we are different from 1939.
President Johnson also spoke about civil rights, not knowing that demonstrators protesting just outside the arena where he was speaking. In other things that took place on this date in history, at a celebration on this date in 1970, the first Earth Day was celebrated. Now in 1990, 20 years later, Tom Cruise spoke out about the environment.
If we make the environment sick, it's going to make us sick. Our future is our children's future. Our children's children's future. They're crying out. We cannot let them down.
Now, the event on the West Lawn of the Capitol featured other celebrities, including John Denver. The Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, dedicated on this date in 1993. In 1998, Disney's Animal Kingdom opened at Walt Disney World near Orlando in 1998. In 2000, in a pre-dawn raid, federal agents seized 6-year-old Elian Gonzalez from his relative's home in Miami to return them to his father in Cuba. And in 2008, the Air Force retired the remaining F-117 Nighthawk aircrafts in service. Passing away on this date in history, the man behind the Rolls-Royce, Henry Royce, actor Will Geer, you remember him from the Waltons, Earl Father Hydes, great jazz pianist, photographer Ansel Adams, actor Albert Salami, President Richard Nixon, humorist Irma Bomback, football player U.S. Army Ranger Pat Tillman killed in action, singer-songwriter Paul Davis, singer-songwriter Richie Havens, Here Comes the Sun, and Joni from Happy Days, Aaron Moran, all those people passing away on this date in history. Eddie Albert of Green Acres is the place to be. Eddie Albert, born on this date. TV producer Aaron Spelling, who produced a lot of television shows. Model Betty Page, born on this date. Charlotte Rae, you remember her from a lot of television shows. And Glenn Campbell, born on this date back in 1936.
How would you like to be remembered?
Just for what I am. I'm Glenn Campbell, and I believe in God. And I believe in other people like the way you want to be treated, and to help others less fortunate. Music is really incredible. It's something it's a gift. And I try to do that. And wow. I'm thankful.
One of Glenn Campbell's last interviews with, this one was with USA Today, who provided us with that audio, and quite frankly, Glenn at that point in time, Alzheimer's is really starting to take control of his life. Campbell passing away in 2017 at the age of 81. Born on this date in history, actor Jack Nicholson, 85 years of age. Mel Carter, Hold Me, Kiss Me, Never Let Me Go Until You... Yeah, the words are wrong, but you know the song. 83 years old is Mel Carter. Peter Frampton Comes Alive, 72 today. You remember her from The Last Starfighter and The Night of the Comet? Catherine Mary Stewart is 63. I really enjoyed Night of the Comet. I thought it was a really strange show, but 63 years old is Catherine Mary Stewart. From Whose Line Is It Anyway? In the Drew Carey Show, Ryan Stiles, 63. Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks, Cheryl Lee, is 55. Asia's Songbird, Regina Velasquez, is 52. From Pineapple Express, Justice League, and Aquaman, Amber Heard, 36. And rapper Machine Gun Kelly is 32. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 22nd day of April as their birthday. And if this happens to be your birthday...
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. And we go back 71 years to April 22nd, 1951. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, on this Friday. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, here on your favorite radio station.
Hi, this is Kyle Horvath with the White Pine County Tourism and Recreation Board. If you want to get away from the big cities and get back to nature this summer, give us a call at 775-289-3720 or visit us online at elinevada.net. There's so much to do and see I can't mention it in 30 seconds, but check out our website and you'll see what Nevada is really all about. elinevada.net or follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Give us a call at 775-289-3720 or visit us online at elinevada.net.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Now, while the ensemble cast is great in this show, you have Gail Gordon, you have, in this episode, you're going to hear our friend Mr. Magoo. Jim Backus is going to be in this episode as well. And, of course, all the other great cast members. But the lead is important in Our Miss Brooks. Could you imagine no Eve Arden? Shirley Booth was the original choice, and she was a great actress. But the problem was Shirley Booth couldn't quite get her grip on how this underpaid school teacher, overworked school teacher, could be funny. And so that's what happened. Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. You'll hear this episode now from 71 years ago, April 22nd, 1951, starring Eve Arden, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay, and Palmolive Shave Creams for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, whenever the routine at Madison High School is disturbed in any way, Principal Osgood Conklin registers serious objections, and he usually blames our Miss Brooks, who teaches English there, for the disturbance.
But the latest upheaval in Madison's schedule was definitely not my fault. 2 weeks ago, the Board of Education put a television set into the school to see if its cultural and educational programs would enhance our regular curriculum. Last Thursday at breakfast, I discussed it with my landlady.
What effect has the television set had so far?
Well, Miss Fitzgerald, who conducts the TV group an hour a day, says there's one very marked result, Mrs. Davis.
In just 2 weeks?
That's right. There isn't a student at Madison who can't tell the difference between a Pinto and a Palomino at one glance.
They do have a great many cowboy films on, don't they?
I would say so, yes. But there are quite a few murder mysteries on, too, and some splendid horror films.
But, Connie, the board placed the set in the school for its scholastic value. Don't they televise any purely educational programs?
Oh, I suppose so, Mrs. Davis. They had a semi-educational program on yesterday.
Semi-educational?
Yes, I think it was called The Batman Eats Up the Dean of Harvard.
Well, I'm sure they'll have more and more cultural things to look at as time goes by. Oh, that reminds me, Connie. It's been some time since that letter came for you. Did you get it?
Letter? No, I didn't get any letter.
Oh, me and that absent mind of mine. And I purposely put it where we couldn't overlook it, on your plate.
My plate?
Oh, dear. How much of your eggs have you eaten?
Every bit but this blue part with the black line stamped on it. Here's the letter, all right. Uh-oh. It's another letter from the collection agency.
The collection agency?
Yes, Sherry's department store has put their delinquent accounts into the hands of the Coulter Collection Agency. It seems I've owed Sherry's about $25 for my Easter shopping.
You mean they're making all this fuss at Sherry's because you haven't paid them since Easter?
Easter 1945.
What does the letter say? What does it say?
It says that I've either got to pay the money at once or they'll notify my employer and attach my salary. Oh, this is terrible. You know how Mr. Conklin feels about anyone who gets into debt.
I wish I could help you, Connie, but the only money I've got is what you owe me for back rent.
Oh, I wouldn't want you to dig into that. Well, I've got to be leaving for school, and maybe someone there could lend me some money.
How about Mr. Boynton?
Mr. Boynton? Yes, he might have something saved up.
He should. He's a bachelor.
Don't rub it in. I kind of hate to ask him for a loan.
Oh, nonsense, Connie. I'm sure he'll be happy to help you. He'll probably hand you $25 before you've even finished asking for it.
It'll take longer than that to open his money belt.
Wait up, Miss Brooks. I'd like to chin with you for a spell. Oh, it's me, Tex Martin.
Oh, for a second there, I thought the television set came out in the hall.
I've been hearing a lot about this here television. I gotta get me a look at some of that stuff.
A mirror is cheaper. I don't like to rush you, Tex, but I'm really...
The reason I stopped you, Miss Brooks, I wanted to tell you Mr. Boynton's looking for you.
Mr. Boynton?
Yeah, he seems right fond of you, ma'am. With no intention of sounding forward or personal, I'd like to say that I think the man who gets his brand on you is a mighty lucky hombre.
Well, thank you, Tex. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to the biology lab and get some branding irons in the fire. Adios, Tex.
Well, Miss Brooks, come on in.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Boynton. What is it you wanted to see me about?
Well, it's, Miss Brooks, for over 4 years now, you and I have been, well, friends.
Don't rub it in. I mean, of course we've been friends.
Well, it's very difficult for me to have to do this, Miss Brooks, but I'd like to ask a favor of you.
Now, that's a coincidence. I have a favor to ask of you, too.
Really? Well, that makes it easier for me to ask mine. Miss Brooks?
Yes, Mr. Boynton?
Can you lend me $25?
Well, I don't like to flaunt my erudition, Mr. Boynton, but you ain't heard no coincidences yet. I came in here to borrow $25 from you.
What?
I got a letter from a collection agency this morning.
A collection agency? The Coulter Collection Agency?
Yes. Do you take from them, too?
Well, they wrote me a letter saying they'd notify my employer if I didn't pay them $25 at once.
Was yours an overdue charge from Sherry's?
Well, yes. I bought some presents for my twin nephews, Mike and Danny, on their 5th birthday.
And Sherry's is making all this fuss because you haven't paid for them yet?
Well, the twins were 9 on Friday. I wanted to pay this bill, but I just haven't been able to.
Neither have I. And if Mr. Conklin finds out from the agency that... Wait a minute. I've got an idea.
Oh, what is it?
I'm going to tell Mr. Conklin about my predicament myself. For the honor of the school, he might advance me the money.
Well, do you think he'd do the same for me?
Well, it's worth a try. I'll tackle him first, then you can have a whack at him after lunch.
That sounds pretty dangerous to me, Miss Brooks. Do you really think you ought to take the bull by the horns?
Certainly. And I can see the headline now. Girl Toreador tossed into the bleachers.
Come in.
Pardon me, Mr. Conklin. I don't like to disturb you,
Let's not start the day with half-truths, Miss Brooks. What do you want?
Well, sir, it's like this. Do you mind if I open the window?
The window?
Just the width of a human body.
Quite comfortable in this office. Now get to the point, please.
All right, I will. I need $25 to pay a delinquent bill I owe at Sherry's department store because they've turned it over to a collection agency which wrote me a letter saying that if I don't pay it promptly, they'll take it up with you. And as small as it is, I've grown too attached to my salary to have it attached. I thank you.
What? Am I to understand that one of my teachers is in the hands of a collection agency?
$25 worth of me is. I wanted to pay it, sir, but
What a deplorable state of affairs. Obviously, your self-indulgence and mismanagement have brought you to this sorry plight.
Yes, sir. But if I can just get some help this one
I suppose I'll have to do something about the situation. If the Board of Education ever found out about this, it would reflect not only on you, but on your school and its principal as well. Naturally, I don't want any skeletons in Madison's closet.
Oh, you're so right, Mr. Conklin. It's terrifying enough around here without that.
Who is it?
I'm from the Coulter Collection Agency.
Oops, he's here already. What should I do, Mr. Conklin? Where can I go?
Now, calm down, Miss Brooks. One moment, please. I'll handle this matter. You go into my inner office and wait there until I call you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks very much.
Come in.
My name is Gray, William Gray. I'm with the Coulter Collection Agency.
How do you do, Mr. Gray? I presume you're here in regard to a debt of one of Madison's teachers?
No, I'm here in regard to a debt of one Osgood Conklin.
Osgood Conklin?
Yes, I'm new in this town and haven't had much of a chance to get acquainted. Sherry's department store tells me he owes them $50 since 1948. Could you help me find Mr. Conklin?
What kind of a looking fellow is he? Have you any idea?
Well, he was described to me as a dumpy sort of chap. Thinning hair and a mustache that looks like an unkept lawn.
What? Why, there's no such person in this vicinity. Although, come to think of it, there was an Osgood Conklin employed here 4 or 5 years ago. I believe he was the school custodian.
April 22nd, 1951, our Miss Brooks on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. News from that date next.
No offense, but are you a little fat when you look in the mirror? How would you like to learn the secrets to lose 3 to 5 pounds a week easily without joining the gym or going through any crazy diets? It's called Body Sculpt by Med Diet. For the last 2 decades, we've been helping people just like you that have pounds they want to shed. We've helped millions of people lose thousands and thousands of pounds over the years. And now it's your turn. Learn the secrets of how to lose weight with one simple phone call. You'll see an amazing difference in a matter of days. Don't believe us? We'll offer you a money-back guarantee. If you're ready to start losing weight right now, call right now to learn more about your risk-free order to Body Sculpt.
Call for your risk-free offer. 800-738-5332. 800-738-5332. 800-738-5332. That's 800-738-5332.
Are you in bad pain? You know what I mean. Your knees hurt. Your shoulder hurts. Your elbow and back are constantly killing you. And I'm sure you've tried every pain pill or cream available at the drugstore. Am I right? Well, here's something you haven't tried. Pain Magic. Pain Magic is not available at any drugstore. The only place you can get it is by calling the special toll-free number I'm about to give you.
And to make things even better, call right now and find out about our buy one, get one free offer. We're so confident it'll work for you that we offer a free bottle with your purchase. No prescription required.
Call now to learn how you can get Pain Magic and get rid of your pain. Remember, your results may vary.
800-492-8164. 800-492-8164. 800-492-8164. That's 800-492-8164.
Thanks for tuning into Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. We're listening to an episode of Our Miss Brooks starring Eve Arden from Sunday, April 22nd, 1951. In the newspapers of that Sunday 71 years ago, these were some of the headlines. The government last night announced a tough new price control policy forbidding industries to raise prices if profits exceed a set standard. Under this yardstick standard, no industry will be permitted to increase prices if the industry's dollar profit amount to 85% or more of the average of its 3 best years during the 4-year period 1946 to 1949 inclusive. Step announced by economic stabilizer Eric Johnston. It's one of a series designed to tighten inflation controls all along the line. Republicans charged Saturday the Truman administration trying to discredit General Douglas MacArthur as the historic split over Far East policy headed toward a congressional airing. Backers of the deposed Far East commander reacted angrily after reading a Washington Dispatch in the New York Times. This dealt with President Truman's conference with MacArthur last October on Wake Island. A young Pittsburgh minister thinks the 40,000 evergreen trees he's planted will keep him in his old age. The Reverend Stuart P. Robinson, assistant pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Pittsburgh, and his wife planted 20,000 of the trees themselves on a farm the couple owns near Delhi, New York. The other 20,000 planted by a professional. Robinson hopes to plant another 100,000 evergreens in coming years, although he says he doesn't expect to get rich. He says the trees are a good investment for the future, adding, "If this inflation keeps on, I can be sure my investment is growing anyway." And it came to pass that a policeman reading the Holy Scriptures came upon the words which solved a crime. Authorities of the land of Israel had apprehended a caravan of asses laden with contraband from the land of the Arabs across the Jordan. But those who owned the asses had slipped away in the night. A policeman read the words of the prophet Isaiah, and in the 3rd verse of the 1st chapter came upon the words of light. While the asses held several days without food and released, the starving and braying beasts led the police to the den of the culprits. The culprits were so amazed until the police read them this message from the Word: "The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib." Those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Sunday, April 22nd, 1951, on your radio, Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, which continues now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
The one I have in mind is the principal of this school.
The principal? Now?
Yes. And if you happen to hear from him, would you be kind enough to inform him that unless he pays the $50 he owes by this afternoon, we will notify the Board of Education and take steps to attach his salary.
But you can't do that is, I'll be happy to inform the gentleman this way. Now, as the new school custodian, I'm quite busy, so if you'll excuse me, I'd like
Yes, certainly. Thank you for your courtesy.
That's quite all right. Good day, Mr. Gray.
Good day, Mr. Conklin.
Well, at least I'll have time. Good day, Mr. Conklin. Gad, he knows. Oh, well, I'll think of something. Miss Brooks, you may come in now.
Is he gone?
Yes, he's gone. Oh, by the way, you didn't happen to overhear any of our conversation, did you?
Why, Mr. Conklin, you know there's a key in the keyhole. I mean, that inner office is practically soundproof.
Good. Well, I can't possibly advance you any money, but in spite of your incompetence in managing your personal affairs, I put Mr. Gray off your trail, at least temporarily.
Oh, thank you, sir. At least I can go to my first class in peace.
Oh, don't mention it. But before you go, I think I would like the window opened after all. It got quite hot in here rather suddenly. Don't you think so, Miss Brooks?
Yes, I do, Mr. Conklin. Especially for school custodians.
April 22nd, 1941, Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. The conclusion next on this Friday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite radio station.
Are you suffering with arthritis or osteoporosis? Do you have diabetes? Did you know that these are just 2 of the hundreds of diseases that have seen improvement with Dr. Wallach's incredible longevity products? You can't get them at a health food store. The only way to get them is to call us at 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065. Do you have heart disease, fibromyalgia, or high blood pressure? Do you have a terrible time losing weight? Dr. Wallach can help. He was a veterinarian and cured diseases in animals. He felt that he could do the same for humans, so he became a physician. Over 50 years of research and helping people like you goes into every bottle of Dr. Wallach's amazing discoveries. Do you want to feel better? Learn how to treat the cause of your problem rather than covering up the symptoms with drugs. Call 800-214-0065. That's 800-214-0065.
On Saturday's Classic Radio Theater, we're going back 76 years to April 23rd, 1946. The Creaking Door, Inner Sanctum Mysteries, and the episode entitled Make Ready My Grave, starring Richard Widmark. John Loomis brings his new bride to the family mansion, where she discovers the many nooses and learns the secret of the family curse. That's on Saturday's Classic Radio Theater, but right now the conclusion of Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, 71 years ago today, April 22nd, 1951.
Well, since Mr. Conklin was a charter member of the Bad Debt Club, along with Mr. Boynton and myself, we were all faced with the same dilemma: how to stall off the Coulter Collection Agency before it took unpleasant action that afternoon. I was pondering this weighty problem in the school cafeteria at noon when Harriet Conklin and Walter Denton, two of my lesser problems, approached the table.
Hi, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Harriet. Walter?
Greetings, most majestic mentor. We kneel at your feet, oh gracious queen of the faculty.
Arise, knight. With this butter knife, I dub thee Sir Appetite. Sit down and have some lunch, Walter.
No, I just ate, Miss Brooks.
Oh, come now. You can think of a better excuse than that.
We're cutting down on our lunch these days, Miss Brooks.
Why, Harriet?
So we can enjoy the popcorn better when we watch television. You have no idea how we enjoy the school set, Miss Brooks. Hey, it's a wonderful medium for education.
Oh, now, just a minute, Walter. I've watched some of those shows. Do you call those Western movies educational?
Well, certainly. Of course, it all depends on what an individual's looking for. Now, me, I watch them to learn about customs and manners of a great era and a great adventurous people. And Harriet, on the other hand, watches them for another reason.
What does she want to learn? How to slide a glass of beer down a long bar?
There are some really legitimate educational programs shown, Miss Brooks. We just haven't been able to get them lately. Yeah, it's a shame.
Oh, I suppose you kids do get something out of the television class.
Oh, we do, Miss Brooks. Miss Fitzgerald is most helpful and constructive. She keeps the room in just the right degree of darkness to make the picture come out sharp and clear. As a matter of fact, Harriet and I are on our way to the television room right now.
But, Walter, it's only 12:30. There's nothing permitted on television until the class at 2.
I know. Isn't it wonderful? Oh, come on, Harriet, dear. Goodbye, Miss Brooks. It's a great place to hold hands, Miss Brooks. You ought to drop in there with Mr. Boynton sometime.
Oh, fine. Little did I think in Teachers College that someday I'd be on the faculty at Lowe's Madison High.
Pardon me, Miss Brooks, but is this table occupied?
No, Mr. Boynton. The occupation force has just left. Sit down, won't you?
Oh, thanks. Well, I haven't been able to get the money for the collection agency as yet, have you?
No, I haven't. But we're not the only indigent faculty members at this school. Our principal owes a bill, too.
You mean Mr. Conklin's in the same boat we are?
He's not only in it, he's rocking it. While I was in his office, I heard Mr. Gray from the agency threaten to expose Mr. Conklin to the Board of Education if he didn't pay up $50 by this afternoon.
Why, that's terrible.
Tragic.
There must be some method whereby we could pacify the agency until we could pay up. In that way,
Wait, I've got an idea. Maybe we could put up something as security. You know, temporary collateral.
Collateral? Oh, but I haven't anything that's worth $25 with me, and even my watch.
I know. It's in the same window as mine.
Oh, what we might be able to do is give them one item that might serve as security until we all pay up. Now, let's see now. Isn't there something right here at school that looks impressive but is completely unessential?
Sure there is. But the collection agency would never accept Mr. Conklin as security.
Please, Miss Brooks, this is serious.
Say, I know what might work. We'll offer them the school television set. So far, it's been most unessential.
Oh, but it's not our property. It belongs to the board.
We'll only be borrowing it, Mr. Boynton. And since we'll be helping Mr. Conklin out of a jam, too, he'll be sure to cooperate. Yes, the more I think about it, the more I like it. I'll call Mr. Gray and have him pick up the set immediately.
But, Miss Brooks, are you sure Mr. Conklin will stand for this?
Mr. Boynton, I'm positive. I can hardly wait to see his face when I tell him about it. I'll bet it turns absolutely human.
This is the office of Osgood Conklin, the principal of Madison High School, himself speaking.
Isn't that nice? Well, this is himself, head of the Board of Education on this end.
What? Mr. Stone, how nice to hear from you, sir. I was just saying to myself...
You can tell me about it this afternoon, Conklin. I'm coming over to see how that television class is working in your school.
The television class? But, Mr. Stone, are you sure this afternoon is convenient for you? Maybe some other time...
We went to considerable expense to install that set 2 weeks ago, and I've got to find out if the experiment is worth it. I'll see you in about an hour. Goodbye.
Yes, sir. Goodbye, Mr. Stone. Oh, everything happens to me. I hope that collection agency fellow doesn't come snooping around this afternoon.
Whoop. He won't be back until tomorrow.
It's me, Mr. Conklin, Miss Brooks.
Oh, come in.
Mr. Conklin, I've got some delightful news for you.
Really? When are you transferring?
Even better news than that, if that's possible. What I wanted to tell you, sir, was that I've put up some security, and the collection agency isn't going to bother us again until we're ready to pay them back what we owe.
Why, Miss Brooks, you have no idea what a relief this is to me. Just before you arrived, Mr. Stone called and said he was coming over this afternoon. It would have been terribly embarrassing if he'd run into that collection chap.
Oh, it certainly would have. But if I say so myself, and who else is going to, I have successfully circumvented that catastrophe. Yes, sir, I just used the old noggin and...
Well, tell me, Miss Brooks, just how did you manage to stall them?
Well, I simply called Mr. Gray and had him pick up the school television set.
And in return for that, he agreed not to... You had him pick up what?
Television set. You see, sir, I figured...
Oh, God! Miss Brooks, the reason Mr. Stone just called was to inform me that he's coming over this afternoon to witness the school set in operation.
What? But he can't do that. I mean, we've got to do something.
You've got to do something. The author of the infamous plot just outlined to me, the responsibility for all further action rests with you and you alone.
Yes, sir. Even while you were talking, the very tiniest mouse of an idea began nibbling at my brain.
If I know you, Miss Brooks, he'll either starve to death in 5 minutes or emerge as the most terrifying spectacle since the Phantom of the Opera.
Well, we're assured of the cooperation of the kids, Mr. Conklin. The rest is up to us.
It's a desperate measure, Miss Brooks, but I'll do my part. Now, as I understand it, you are to remain here in my office to receive Mr. Stone, and I am to return in about 5 minutes.
Correct. Believe me, Mr. Conklin, when Mr. Stone leaves here, he'll be delighted that our TV set is no longer on the premises.
I'd like to believe you, Miss Brooks. And now, as I leave this office where I spent so many joyous years as Madison's beloved dictator, a principal, I can only say, as I open this door, that if I am about to walk into the shadow of unemployment, I shall not walk alone.
Isn't he sweet? Oh, give me a home, da 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 da. Come in.
Good afternoon, Miss Brooks. Is Mr. Conklin in?
No, sir.
Now, where is he?
Well, I can't rightly say. He just sort of took off like a big-winged bird.
What?
More likely just moseyed down the hall a piece. Come on in and sit, Mr. Stone. I'll chin with you a spell.
Chin with with. Miss Brooks, do you realize you're talking to the head of the Board of Education?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stone. It's just that I've been watching so much television since you had it installed at school that this here Western palaver comes right natural to me.
That set was installed for strictly cultural purposes.
And that's the way it's been used. It's already tied and branded most of the young'uns here at Madison.
The young'uns?
Beg pardon for busting in, Miss Brooks, but have you seen anything of my pappy?
Nary hide nor hair, Harry. But you haven't said howdy to Mr. Stone, gal. Mr. Stone, you know Harriet Conklin.
I used to.
Howdy, Mr. Stone. Right nice to meet up with you again.
Now, who's she supposed to be? Calamity Jane? Why does everybody spend so much attention to Westerns? As far as I'm concerned, they're nothing but...
Hold on there, Mr. Stone. That kind of palaver don't go in these parts.
What's that?
You was about to say a discouraging word.
I'll say more than that.
Excuse me, folks. The door was open, so I thought I'd just lope on in.
This I don't believe at all.
Well, now, this is Tex Barton. Tex, this is Mr. Stone from the Board of Education.
Well, if he's a friend of yours, Miss Brooks, he's a friend of mine, no matter where he's from.
Now, see here, this farce has gone far enough. Why are you talking in this manner, boy?
I don't know no other way.
How long have you been speaking with this Western drawl?
Why, I've been talking this way since I was ankle high to the drooping fetlock of a stunted pindle.
And you can't get lower than that unless you're driving a submarine.
He can't have always talked this way. Television isn't that old.
With him, it's standard equipment, Mr. Stone.
I don't get this. Does everyone at Madison want to be a cowboy?
Oh, no, sir. Several of them have expressed a desire to be Indians.
When this TV proposition was broached... Oh, there you are, Conklin.
Sorry I'm late. I guess you must think I'm a pretty ornery maverick.
Ornery maverick?
Why, sure. To go and traipsing off while you're squatting on your haunches in my corral?
Oh, for heaven's sakes, not you, too!
Mr. Conklin's watched television very closely.
Yeah, I've observed it thoroughly, partner. I mean, Mr. Stone.
All I can say is the influence it's had on this particular school is positively abysmal.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, what you said. That's why I took the liberty of making a rather radical decision today. Mr. Stone, what would you say if I told you that the television set was no longer with us?
I'd say good riddance, Osgood. Splendid.
You would? In that case, I must, with humble pride, accept your congratulations, sir. The set is off these premises. And as I would have taken full censure, so must I take full credit for its going.
Huh?
In its concept from the beginning, this action taken for the good of the school was my doing and mine alone. And I know Miss Brooks will be the first to bear me out.
Definitely. How do you want to go? Head first or feet first?
And now, once again, here is our Miss Brooks.
Well, as soon as Mr. Stone and the others had left his office, Mr. Conklin admitted that he was grateful for my assistance. Then, in the manner so typical of the man, he immediately conferred upon me my reward.
Miss Brooks, in appreciation for your meritorious service, I have decided to bestow a rare honor upon you. You will be permitted to type up in triplicate 6 copies of my latest report to the superintendent of schools and have it on my desk tomorrow morning. Miss Brooks, you haven't answered me. Where are you going?
I'm going to head him off at the pass. It's the only way to save the fort.
Reminding for another Our Miss Brooks show, brought to you by Palmolive Shave Cream for a smoother, more comfortable way to shave, and Colgate Dental Cream to clean your breath while you clean your teeth and help stop tooth decay.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, is produced by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis and Arthur Alsberg, with the music of Wilbur Hatch.
From April 22nd, 1951, Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Please thank this station and support their advertisers. It is their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every time we roll around. And if for some reason you miss us on this station, you can always hear our shows through iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon, or even Facebook. Just search for Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. That's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. And you can also hear them through my webpage, classicradio.stream. That's where you get in touch with me, classicradio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Have a great weekend.